to the Truth in My Days podcast, where we defend the Word of God against the challenges of men.
Hi, I'm Dana Torst, and welcome to another episode of the Truth in My Days radio program. Today, I'm here with John Torst and Jason Chan as they discuss the important topic of creation and evolution. We are continuing from the previous episode. We hope you enjoy.
During the excavation, one of the bones got broken. And so for the first time, a paleontologist had a good chance to look inside, and Mary Schweitzer decided, let's look inside and see what we see. It's broken anyway, we may as well take a look. To her shock, what she found was soft tissues. Amazing soft tissues, blood cell-like bodies, blood vessels, bone-forming osteocytes, so many different things. Even DNA. And the significance of this, pay attention, the finding amazed colleagues who had never imagined that even a trace of still soft dinosaur tissue could survive. Why not? What does it say there?
After all, as any textbook will tell you, when an animal dies, soft tissues such as blood vessels, muscle, and skin decay and disappear over time, while hard tissues like bone may gradually acquire minerals from the environment and become fossils.
Okay. So remember, the article admits here, as any textbook will tell you, that this is not a radical idea. This was established scientific fact based on a great deal of experimentation and observation, the way science is supposed to work. Every textbook would have told you at the time that the soft tissues disappear, only the bones remain, and they become permineralized and become fossils. Every textbook tells you that. And now here's a problem, because this bone is supposed to be 68 million years old and not supposed to have any soft tissues, and lo and behold, what you found were soft tissues.
Right.
Well, obviously the Christians, the creationists would say, aha, if you have soft tissues in this bone, as hard science will tell you, this bone cannot be 68 million years old. Now, interestingly, in the same article, what does it say there?
It says, meanwhile, Schweitzer's research has been hijacked by young Earth creationists who insist that dinosaurs' soft tissue couldn't possibly survive millions of years.
Isn't that interesting? A couple of pages earlier, they're telling you that every single scientific textbook will tell you this.
Yeah.
And they're happy to tell you that in the article, but as soon as the creationist brings it up, well, we've hijacked her research. We've hijacked her research by saying what every single textbook says. So you begin to suspect that this is not going to go where the evidence leads. No. The evolution industry is going to close ranks on this. What's particularly disappointing to me, though, as I have to say, because again, Schweitzer describes herself, according to the article, describes herself as a complete and total Christian. On a shelf in her office is a plaque bearing an Old Testament verse, quote, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." So here's this Christian who's now being given this opportunity to strike a huge blow against this theory that was invented to push God out. What do we see? But when creationists misrepresent Schweitzer's data, she takes it personally. We misrepresent her data by saying the same thing that every single science textbook said. There's something wrong here. Well, how do they respond? Obviously, this is not something they liked, and they started climbing on Schweitzer's work. And the first cover story was that there was contamination here. There's a biofilm produced by bacterial action and such things, and the soft tissues didn't actually come from the bone itself, but from contamination. But that didn't work. That one fell apart, because now scientists began to look inside dinosaur bones, and they found many more examples, not just the one in Schweitzer's T-Rex bone. And these examples included blood cells, blood vessels, and proteins. And here was the kicker. Among the proteins were two called actin and tubulin. And these are not found in bacteria.
Okay.
Which means they didn't come from contamination.
Right.
They also found one called PHEX, P-H-E-X, stands for phosphate regulating endopeptidase, X-linked, and that's unique to bone. Only find that in bone, nowhere else. And bacteria, last time I looked, don't have bones. And then to make things even worse for evolutionists, they even found DNA. And they found DNA in 3 independent ways. Okay. I'm going to come back to the DNA.
Yeah, isn't DNA not supposed to last millions of years?
No, it definitely isn't. DNA is a very unstable molecule. And we will come back to that in more detail. But getting back just to the soft tissues, the real chemistry, again, real science, the sort that's based on actual laboratory experimentation and observation, shows that it is impossible for these kind of substances to last 65 million years, the supposed age of the last of the dinosaurs. It's impossible, and every single textbook said so. Here we're referencing an article from The Biochemist from June 2002 by Nielsen Marsh. Now, Dr. Schweitzer herself said on Nova Science Now in 2009, when you think about it, the laws of chemistry and biology and everything else that we know say it should be gone. It should be degraded completely. So here's Dr. Schweitzer saying this. Dr. Schweitzer, who's an expert in these things, and she's saying the laws, the most certain things in science, the laws of chemistry and biology and everything else that we know say it should be gone. Should be degraded completely. Cannot be 68 million years old. So if you go where the evidence leads, you go with what you're supposed to do in science, you're supposed to conclude that, you know what, these bones are not 68 million years old. Does Dr. Schweitzer do that? Well, no. Dr. Schweitzer doesn't do that. Dr. Schweitzer throws out every single thing she has ever learned about this. And she said, the presence of original molecular components is not predicted for fossils older than 1 million years, and the discovery of collagen in this well-preserved dinosaur supports the use of actualistic conditions to formulate molecular degradation rates and models rather than relying on theoretical or experimental extrapolations derived from conditions that do not occur in nature. Now, that's quite a mouthful, but what she's saying basically, let's throw out everything we learned in the laboratory. Because we want to hold on to the evolutionary time span.
I see.
We should only rely on actualistic conditions, field observations. So one fell swoop, to protect evolution, to protect the time scale of evolution, we've just essentially thrown out science. We shouldn't rely on theoretical or experimental extrapolations. Never mind that everything that supposedly supports evolution is all based on that kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
But for now, this is bad for evolution, so we should throw out, we should only work with actualistic conditions, in the ground conditions. But that won't work for it because we've done that. We have done that. An article from World Magazine 2012, and I quote from here, Australian scientists drilled into 158 semi-fossilized leg bones from extinct flightless moa birds and extracted DNA samples. They calculated how much DNA had degraded in the older and younger fossils, and by comparing these amounts, estimated that DNA has a half-life of 521 years. The upshot is that little readable DNA should be able to survive in a fossil beyond 1.5 million years and none beyond 6.8 million, which is only 1/10 of the way back to this T-Rex bone. And these are the actualistic conditions that Dr. Schweitzer was calling for. Well, guess what, Dr. Schweitzer? The actualistic conditions also prove that these bones are not 68 million years old. Well, where does Schweitzer go now? Well, there must have been some way to preserve them. It's something we didn't know about. She says, a previously unknown chemical mechanism allows cellular matter to be preserved over a geologic time. Do you find a problem with that statement? One word in particular?
Previously unknown?
Previously unknown. Interesting. Previously. Do we know this mechanism now?
Yeah, do we?
We don't. There is no
Okay.
mechanism.
Okay, I see.
And it's this song. It's not, it would be problematic if you said an unknown chemical mechanism allows it to happen. And again, we're just going to hope we'll find something. We don't have something, but we're not going to let go of the evolutionary timescale. But to put in the word previously implies that now we do know it.
Yeah.
And we don't. And what's interesting is when the critics complained about the biofilm, the contamination in our sample, she actually said in one speech, here's the data in support of a biofilm origin, and she put up a blank slide. We haven't found any yet. Which is true, but then we could do the same thing with her previously unknown mechanism, couldn't we?
Right.
The data in support of Schweitzer's previously unknown chemical mechanism that allows cellular matter to be preserved over time is a blank slide. Talk about your double standard here, folks. Now, I said we'd come back to DNA. Here's the issue. DNA is also being found in these fossils, including one intact segment of 174 base pairs, which is significant.
Okay.
Now, Schweitzer's team detected DNA in 3 independent ways. Okay, so you can't argue that. Some tried to argue and say there was no DNA there, but it was. And it was found in 3 different ways. And at least one of them shows the DNA was quite intact. Okay, because this method wouldn't detect a short strand less than about, say, 10 DNA letters. So there's DNA there as well. And this becomes very difficult now for evolutionists or for Christians who want to accept the deep time, the 4.6 billion year old Earth. Because the experiments that were done on DNA survival that we referenced before was by Alan Toft and his team, published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society in 2012. They found that DNA can survive for a maximum of 2,500 years at 20 degrees Celsius. Maximum of 17,500 years at 10 degrees Celsius. If you could keep it down to 0 for the entire time, 125,000 years. And these are orders of magnitude too short for the supposed age of the dinosaurs.
Thank you, everyone, for listening today. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but please join us for the next part tomorrow. Same time and same place. If you enjoy our content and think this is important material, the best compliment you can pay is by sharing this with your friends and family. This helps us out a lot. Also, if you enjoyed today's program, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to this podcast. We would love to hear from you. Thank you for listening to the Truth in My Days podcast with John Torse. We would love to hear from you. Please feel free to share any questions or comments you may have. You can reach us on Facebook, Instagram, MeWe, and YouTube. Simply search Truth in My Days as one word. Again, Truth in My Days as one word, no spaces in between. And you can connect with us. You may also visit our website for more comprehensive material and to learn more about our ministry. Our website is truthinmydays.com. Thank you.